Welcome to this explainer. I am so incredibly thrilled you're here today because, well, we are about to unpack something truly fascinating. We're going to take a super close look at a young missionary's personal journal. Specifically, we're zooming in on just 2 days, back in August of 1994, spent at a missionary training center. Now, you might be thinking, okay, a diary entry, so what? But it's actually this profound psychological case study. It perfectly captures exactly what happens to the human mind when it's just thrust into a highly structured, deeply spiritual, and, let's be honest, intensely pressured environment. So let's just dive right into it.
Right off the bat, I want to show you this absolutely striking juxtaposition. In the exact same journal entry, this author talks about experiencing this incredible, pristine state of waking joy. They actually write that they have yet to have a real bad thought, which is awesome. But then, literally in the same breath, they describe a terrifying, visceral nightmare where their own body just completely betrays them. It's wild. We're looking at a mind experiencing extreme conscious purity on one hand, while simultaneously suffering from this intense subconscious anxiety on the other. So how does a person reconcile those two extremes? Well, to figure that out, we actually need to rewind and go back a day.
Section 1, A Moment of Clarity, August 27th, 1994.
To really start our journey chronologically, we absolutely have to understand the profound spiritual peaks that defined this particular Saturday. So, while reading the Book of Mormon, the author has this sudden, massive epiphany. It hits them that Nephi wrote on the exact same plates that Joseph Smith was later led to find under a rock in the hill Cumorah. They realize, wait a minute, Moroni was the angel who guided him, right? After wandering for years just to hide those very plates and write the final chapter. For the author, this wasn't just some standard reading assignment. It was a moment where thousands of years of scriptural history suddenly just clicked together in their brain like a giant puzzle. They literally wrote, I finally saw how it all came together. I mean, talk about a massive intellectual high.
Section 2, Light in the Cave, a shared spiritual experience. But that Saturday wasn't just about solitary studying. I really want you to picture the sensory sequence they described later that day. So, a classmate, sister child, shares this story about crawling into a really dark, crowded cave in Jerusalem, turning off all the flashlights and singing a hymn. It's a deeply moving story. Then, the teacher decides, hey, let's recreate this right here in the classroom. The teacher tells everyone to really think about how that must have felt, and then, click, turns off the classroom lights. Just sitting there in pitch black, the entire class begins to sing We Thank Thee, O God, for a Prophet, completely together. The author notes that the spirit was just incredibly strong. By the time the lights come back on, pretty much everyone in the room is in tears. It all culminates in everyone giving each other hugs, taking photos. It's just this massive release of communal emotion and bonding. A total, undeniable spiritual peak. Section 3, A Shift in Thoughts, Waking versus Sleeping. Okay, now we shift gears to the very next day, Sunday, August 28th. And here's where we see a truly fascinating psychological transition. The communal euphoria of Saturday kind of settles down, and the mind starts turning inward. The author explicitly reflects on whether their thoughts and dreams would change while on their mission. Looking back at their past, they note that previously their worst thoughts were mostly just dwelling on past wrongdoings that, quote, weren't really bad. But looking at their present state, their thoughts are now much cleaner. And the author actually attributes this as the main reason they are, quote, happier now than I have been in any other part of my life. The highly structured, disciplined environment of the training center has actively cleansed this missionary's waking thoughts. It's created an unprecedented level of conscious happiness. I mean, they're totally 100% in control. Section 4, The Unopening Eye, August 28th, 1994. So as we move into Sunday afternoon, that bright, active Saturday gives way to a quieter, much more isolating break time. The journal actually notes that the missionaries were given a 2.5-hour block of free time after their classes. They studied for an hour, and then most of them just went to sleep. And it is right here, in this incredibly vulnerable state of sleep, that the door swings wide open for the subconscious mind to completely take the wheel. I dreamed that my right eye would not open. It was a terrible dream. I want you to really think about the visceral, restrictive nature of that image. Here is an individual whose entire waking life right now is all about clarity, seeing the truth, and studying the scriptures. And what's the very first thing their subconscious does? It blinds them in one eye. It literally takes away their ability to see. It strips away their control entirely. The physiological impact of this dream was so intense that the anxiety bled instantly into the waking world. The author writes that the very first thing they did the second they woke up was physically touch their eye, just to make sure it was actually okay. The subconscious fear had physically manifested right there in the real world. And the crazy part? They had absolutely no idea why they even had the dream in the first place. Section 5. Dreams of Decay, the Afternoon Nap. Later, that exact same afternoon, they go to sleep again. And in this second nap, the subconscious anxieties don't just return, they escalate big time. They write, I opened my mouth, and all of my teeth were completely on the wrong side of my mouth, and my gums were starting to rot. Just, wow. Contrast this violently grotesque body horror with the incredibly clean and happy waking thoughts we were just talking about a minute ago. The waking mind is pure and joyful, but the sleeping mind is literally decaying and twisted up. The absolutely crucial point here is how this narrative actually unfolds in the dream, because it is entirely about a loss of control. So the author dreams they're in a house, looking into a mirror. They see their teeth are missing and rotting. Recognizing the problem, they do exactly what you're supposed to do, right? They go to an authority figure, a dentist, for help. But when the dentist asks to take a look, the author opens their mouth and things are terrifyingly worse. The teeth are on the entirely wrong side of their mouth and the gums are actively rotting away. And the dentist, the one person who's supposed to fix this, simply confirms that things have definitely gotten worse. The author wakes up feeling absolutely terrible because despite actively seeking help in the dream, their own body was failing them, totally and completely out of their control. Section 6. The Final Interpretation. Waking Resolutions.
And that brings us to a really fascinating psychological crossroad. We're going to transition now to see exactly how the conscious waking mind attempts to process, rationalize, and ultimately take back control of these intense subconscious fears. I mean, after waking up feeling terrible from a dream about rotting teeth and a blind eye, the author asks themselves what it all means. So how do you think a young missionary, deeply immersed in this highly structured environment, is going to interpret this horrifying imagery? What is the logical takeaway from a literal body horror?
Well, here is the author's fascinating conclusion. They don't conclude that they're stressed. They don't decide they need a break. No. Instead, their waking mind translates that visceral subconscious fear of bodily decay into a self-imposed mandate for even stricter discipline. They write, I do have an idea that it means that I have to start studying harder, and I know I have no time to waste. Actually, scratch that. It's not just discipline. It's an incredible defense mechanism. They take the terrifying lack of control in their dreams and use it as fuel to exert even more control over their waking hours. It's just wild. So what you should really take away from this explainer is a clear picture of the immense psychological weight of this kind of environment. If we summarize the journey of these 2 days, this diary entry perfectly captures a human mind in this beautiful yet incredibly tense duality. On the surface, you have the conscious mind, just elevated by incredible faith, intellectual breakthroughs, and profound communal bonding. But right beneath the surface, you have a subconscious mind wrestling with intense, unspoken pressure, manifesting as literal physical decay. Yet, the unbreakable drive of the individual takes that stress and channels it straight back into their core purpose. I want to leave you with this thought-provoking question. As we've seen from this young missionary's journal, the human mind has absolutely incredible ways of compartmentalizing. But the pressure always has to go somewhere. When you are pushed into an intense environment of growth, structure, or expectation, how does your subconscious mind reveal the pressure that your conscious mind refuses to acknowledge while awake? It's definitely something to think about the next time you have a dream that you just can't quite shake. Thank you so much for joining me as we unpacked this incredible piece of history today. Keep learning, and I'll see you next time.